All right, let's talk about Family Guy Season 20, Episode 7. You know, sometimes I look at these episodes and I swear the writers are just throwing darts at a board of pop culture references and nonsensical plot devices. And then there's Seth MacFarlane, the guy who basically invented modern adult animation as we know it, who somehow keeps churning these things out. I mean, this guy's career is like a bizarre amusement park where every ride is themed around either a cheap gag or a surprisingly poignant observation about the human condition, often simultaneously. He gave us American Dad, The Cleveland Show, and, of course, Family Guy, which is the granddaddy of them all, the one that proved you could be offensive, weird, and somehow still capture lightning in a bottle week after week. He's got this uncanny ability to tap into the zeitgeist, then immediately subvert it into something utterly ridiculous. Like, remember that episode where they did the whole John Wick parody? It was brilliant and insane. And then he goes and does something like this, where it starts with a musical number and ends with, well, we'll get to that. It's a real roller coaster, this show, and this episode is definitely a ride. But what I really want to know is, can they still pull it off? Can they still surprise us, make us laugh until we cry, and then maybe make us cry for real with a surprisingly deep character moment? Or are we just going through the motions at this point? I think this episode tries to do a lot, and whether it succeeds or not is what we're here to dissect. Because lurking beneath the surface of talking dogs and mutant babies, there's usually something else. Something that makes you go, wait a minute, did they just say that? And then you realize they did, and the whole show takes on a different meaning. Buckle up, because this one has a few twists and turns that might just leave you wondering what the heck you just watched. And honestly, that's probably the point. What you're about to hear might make you reevaluate everything you thought you knew about this show. Or it might just make you want to rewatch the original Serial podcast. Stick around, because we're diving deep into Family Guy Season 20, Episode 7. And hey, if you're finding yourself nodding along to this or yelling at your screen in agreement, you should probably hit that subscribe button. It really helps us keep these deep dives going. And honestly, it's the least you can do after subjecting yourself to this much Family Guy talk.
So, let's get into it. This episode, on the surface, is about a few things. We've got Peter trying to be healthy, which, if you've ever seen Peter, you know is a disaster waiting to happen. Then he gets a pitching machine, which he, naturally, weaponizes. It leads to some classic Peter Griffin chaos. And then somehow, it devolves into them trying to turn the Griffin house into a hotel. Meanwhile, Lois's dad, Carter, is going on a funeral trip for an old family friend, Meredith, who turns out to be Lois's former nanny. And then, plot twist, it turns out Carter had an affair with Meredith. That's a lot, right? It's like they took 3 completely different episode ideas and duct taped them together. The health kick starts with Peter on a treadmill, but it's over before it begins because, surprise, he's Peter. He's not built for that kind of sustained effort. The pitching machine is where things really go off the rails. You know, the whole America's Funniest Home Videos bit with the intention of hitting Chris in the nuts, that's classic Family Guy. It's that immediate jump from a relatable scenario to absolute mayhem. It's funny because it's so over the top, but also because it's Peter being utterly oblivious to the consequences. Then the house turning into a hotel. That's where the writers really tried to tie things together, I guess. You have the family forced to work together, which usually means everyone is miserable and it ends in disaster. And that's exactly what happens. They're assigning roles, and it's all set up for failure from the jump. Chris is the bellhop, Brian at the bar, Meg doing all the actual work, and Peter being the concierge. It's a recipe for chaos, and it's supposed to be funny because it's so dysfunctional. On a deeper level, this episode is really about family dynamics and responsibility, or the lack thereof. Peter's health kick is a fleeting moment of self-improvement that's immediately derailed by his own nature. The hotel scheme is born out of desperation and a lack of responsibility. They're trying to cash in on a disaster they probably caused. And Carter's storyline, that's the real meat of it. It's about secrets, betrayal, and the ripple effects of past actions. Lois finding out about her father's affair with her nanny is a huge moment. It recontextualizes her childhood and her relationship with her father. It's about how secrets can fester and how the truth, even when it's painful, is ultimately necessary. This episode feels like a bit of a turning point, or at least an attempt at one.
It's trying to add some genuine emotional weight to the typical Family Guy formula. The show's been around for so long that it's got to try and do something new, or at least revisit old themes with a new perspective. They're exploring the idea of legacy, of how our parents' actions affect us, and how the past isn't always as buried as we think. The writing, as usual, is hit or miss. Some jokes land perfectly, others feel a bit forced. The pacing is a little all over the place, jumping from the pitching machine chaos to the funeral plotline without much transition. It feels like 2 episodes crammed into one. The visual gags are still there, the animation is solid, but the storytelling feels a bit disjointed. It's not a perfect episode, not by a long shot, but it's definitely trying to be more than just a collection of gags. It's trying to tell a story with some actual substance, even if it stumbles a bit in getting there. My personal verdict? It's an interesting attempt, but not a classic. It has moments of brilliance mixed with the usual Family Guy absurdity. It's an episode that's trying to balance comedy with genuine drama, and it doesn't always get the balance right, but you have to give them credit for trying. It's definitely a season 20 episode, meaning it's still finding its footing in the show's later years. Let's talk about the moment where Peter decides to teach Chris how to swing a bat, but his real goal is to get a home video for America's Funniest Home Videos. This scene kicks off with Peter all fired up, ready to pass on some father-son wisdom. You know, the usual stuff about bonding and all that. But then he drops the bombshell. Not about hitting you in the nuts to get on America's Funniest Home Videos. That's the classic Family Guy twist. It's not about genuine connection. It's about exploiting your own child for internet fame, or in this case, TV fame from the 90s. The visual of the pitching machine pointed right at Chris's crotch is just chef's kiss. It's so ridiculous, so inappropriate, and so perfectly Peter. The build-up, the music, the look on Chris's face, it's all there. And then, of course, it happens. Chris gets hit, and the immediate cut to the AFV announcer voice. Or will it be 2 balls, 1 strike, submitted by Peter Griffin of Quahog, Rhode Island? That's pure gold. It's a perfect encapsulation of Peter's character, completely self-centered, completely unaware of the pain he inflicts, and utterly committed to his terrible ideas.
What this moment is really trying to say is that Peter's priorities are all out of whack. He sees parenting not as nurturing, but as an opportunity for personal gain, even if that gain is just a fleeting moment of internet notoriety. It's a dark commentary on reality TV and the lengths people will go to for a laugh. If I were writing this, I'd maybe lean even harder into the AFV aesthetic. Like have a fake grainy filter come on, or have a brief clip of Bob Saget's spectral form appear to judge Peter. That would have amplified the meta-commentary. Or maybe have Chris actually enjoy getting hit in the nuts, because, you know, he's Chris. But as it stands, it's a brilliant moment of character-driven comedy that highlights Peter's worst traits in the most hilarious way possible. It's the kind of gag that makes you pause and think, did they really just go there? And the answer is always yes. Next up, the earthquake, or as Peter calls it, the pitching machine is the only plumber we'll need. After the pitching machine has clearly caused some structural damage to the house, it's rattling and shaking, and Lois and the kids are freaking out. Peter, in his infinite wisdom, decides that this is not a plumbing issue, but a pitching machine issue. He's convinced that this thing, which is clearly tearing their house apart, is somehow going to fix itself or fix the house. The visual of the house literally shaking apart while Peter is trying to be a hero is just peak Family Guy chaos. It's that moment where reality completely breaks down and Peter is the only one who seems to not notice or care. He's telling everyone to stand back because he's going to fix it with the pitching machine. It's the absurdity of the situation that makes it so funny. He's the cause of the problem, and he's convinced he's the solution. And the family's reaction, the screaming, the sheer terror, versus Peter's delusional confidence is the perfect comedic contrast. What this moment reveals is the show's willingness to just blow up their own setting for a laugh. The house, a place of supposed stability for the family, is literally falling apart because of Peter's latest insane gadget. It's a visual metaphor for the chaos that Peter often brings into their lives. It's not just a joke, it's a statement on how Peter's actions constantly destabilize the family unit. If I were directing this, I'd maybe have the pitching machine fire a baseball through the collapsing wall, just to add another layer of what the hell is happening. It's a moment that's meant to be pure, unadulterated chaos, and it delivers. It's a scene that proves that no matter how much the characters try to have a normal life, Peter will always find a way to dismantle it. It's a testament to the show's ability to create memorable disaster scenarios. Then we get to Carter's reveal about Meredith. Lois is crying about her school problems, and Carter, trying to comfort her, brings up her old nanny, Meredith, and how she loved her time with Lois. But then the bombshell drops. Meredith had an affair with a rich guy in Rhode Island, and Lois's mom found out and made Carter fire her. The gasp from Lois, the absolute shock on her face, It's a genuinely dramatic moment, and it's delivered with such a straight face by Carter. He's just casually revealing a secret that completely redefines Lois's childhood. He's not even trying to soften the blow, he just lays it out there. And then the connection to Meredith being forced to leave, having nowhere to go, and ending up back in their childhood home, that's a really interesting narrative choice. It's a way to connect the past to the present in a way that has real emotional weight. It reframes Lois's relationship with her father, her mother, and her entire upbringing. What this moment is really about is the hidden lives of parents and how those secrets can impact their children even years later. It's about the idea that our parents are not just the figures we know, but complex individuals with their own mistakes and regrets. It's a surprisingly mature take for Family Guy. It's saying that even in this absurd world, there are real, painful human stories. If I were writing this, I'd have Lois immediately confront her mother, or maybe have a flashback scene showing the affair or the confrontation. But keeping it as this bombshell reveal from Carter and then having Lois react off-screen, it adds this layer of mystery and unspoken trauma. It's effective because it forces Lois and the audience to piece together the implications. It's a moment that elevates the episode beyond just a series of jokes. It's saying something about the complexities of family and the lasting impact of our parents' choices. It's a testament to the show's ability to sometimes deliver genuine emotional punches amidst the silliness. The entire concept of the echo in Carter's mansion is a fantastic bit of extended absurdity. Stewie, being Stewie, points out the bizarre 12-second echo. Brian, ever the skeptic, dismisses it. And then Stewie proves it with his own voice, and then the whole family starts playing with it.
Peter's contribution, the echoing flatulence, is exactly what you'd expect. It's a simple premise, a sound delay, but they milk it for all it's worth. They don't just do one echo joke. They build on it, they have characters interact with it, they make it a recurring gag. The visual of everyone just standing around waiting for their own words to come back is inherently funny. And then the idea that Peter's fart echoed from yesterday? That's the kind of surreal escalation that Family Guy excels at. It takes a mundane concept and twists it into something completely bonkers. What this gag is doing is showcasing the show's commitment to extended jokes and its ability to find humor in the most unexpected places. It's not just a quick punchline, it's a full-blown bit that involves multiple characters and layers of absurdity. It's also a chance for the writers to have fun with sound design and timing. They're playing with the audience's expectations and creating a uniquely comedic experience. It's the kind of joke that requires patience from the viewer, but the payoff is worth it. If I were there, I'd have had Brian try to deliver some profound philosophical statement, and then the echo comes back, twisting it into something dumb, like, what is life? Is it just a dream? Then the echo back, is it just a dream? Dumb stream? That would have been peak Brian and Stewie dynamic. But even without that, the extended echo sequence is a masterclass in long-form silliness. It's a prime example of the show's creative ambition, even when it's just messing around with acoustics. Let's talk about Peter's hotel staff assignments for the house. He's telling the hotel towels that they're going to have one last night of peace. The idea that he's talking to inanimate objects like they're soldiers going into battle is peak Peter. He's assigning them roles. Anderson, late night vomit, Russo, ladies' room, and then Edwards folded into a monkey to be, well, you know. The idea of a hotel towel having a sex life is just so inherently ridiculous, and Peter's framing of it as a dangerous mission where some won't come back and others will never be one color again, it's pure, unadulterated, dark Peter humor. He's treating these towels like they're actual employees facing mortal danger. The visual of him giving these stern orders to a pile of folded towels is hilarious and it's sheer idiocy. What this scene is doing is taking a mundane object, a hotel towel, and imbuing it with a bizarre, human-like narrative.
It's a classic Family Guy move, where they anthropomorphize the inanimate and give it a hilariously inappropriate backstory. It's a commentary on the potential for chaos and degradation in any service industry, but filtered through Peter's uniquely warped perspective. It's like he's preparing them for the ultimate indignity. If I were Peter, I'd have them do a full-on military drill. Marching in formation, saluting the toilet brush, that would have really cemented the absurdity. But the way it is, with him assigning these roles and preparing them for the worst, it's still incredibly funny because of the utter disconnect between the reality of towels and Peter's perception of their jobs. It's a joke that's so specific and so weird, it's hard not to appreciate the sheer gall of it. It's a great example of the show's ability to find humor in the most unexpected corners. Then we have the whole Lois and Meg situation, where Lois is upset about being called Mad TV funny and not SNL funny. Carter, trying to comfort her, tells her the story of the ugly duckling, but then he twists it into a modern, cynical tale about a duckling creating a website to rate women, mining data, rigging elections, and becoming a billionaire. This is such a Family Guy way to twist a classic fairy tale. It takes something innocent and turns it into a commentary on the dark side of the internet and modern success. The idea of the duckling becoming a billionaire by rating women and rigging elections is just so absurd and topical. And then Carter's deadpan delivery, saying, "No, but you'll use his site to post pictures of wine and passive-aggressively body shame other moms." That's the kicker. It's a perfect illustration of how toxic online culture can be and how it trickles down into everyday life. It's a joke that's both funny and a little bit sad because it hits so close to home for many people. What this scene is doing is satirizing modern internet culture, the rise of influencers, and the darker aspects of social media. It's using a familiar story to make a point about how the world has changed and how success can be achieved through dubious means. It's also a jab at how superficial many online interactions are. If I were writing this, I'd have the Ducklings website be called Quack Rate and have actual user reviews showing up, like hotness 3.5, too much flapping. That would add another layer of specific humor. But as it is, the twisted fairy tale is a brilliant piece of social commentary disguised as a joke.
It's a moment that shows Family Guy can still be sharp and relevant, even after all these years. It's a testament to their ability to comment on current events and societal trends in their own unique, subversive way. The introduction of Brian's bar and the whole "drinks, thinks, and winks" tagline is classic Family Guy, trying to imbue something mundane with a bit of flair. Brian, as the bartender, is supposed to be doling out snappy tidbits of advice. It's a role that suits him perfectly, or at least it suits the idea of him perfectly. He fancies himself a wise, worldly character, and the bar is his stage. The joke is that while Brian thinks he's dispensing profound wisdom, it's usually just pretentious nonsense or thinly veiled self-interest. This whole setup is designed to highlight Brian's character flaws and the show's ongoing commentary on his intellectual snobbery. He's the guy who always has an opinion, but rarely has a solid plan. The whole "drinks, thinks, and winks" tagline itself is trying way too hard to be cool, which is exactly the kind of thing Brian would come up with. What this element is doing is setting the stage for Brian's character interactions within the hotel chaos. It's a way to give him a specific function and a built-in excuse to interact with other characters and deliver his brand of wisdom. It's also a setup for potential jokes about the quality of his drinks or the actual quality of his advice. If I were to flesh this out, I'd have a montage of guests coming to Brian's bar, each with a specific problem, and Brian's advice would consistently make things worse, but he'd remain completely oblivious to his own failings. Maybe he'd tell someone to invest in Bitcoin in 2008, or advise a heartbroken person to just get over it. That would really drive home the point of his flawed wisdom. But even without that, the setup for Brian's bar is a solid piece of character work, designed to poke fun at Brian's pretentious persona. It's a classic Family Guy trope: take a character's established trait and then build a whole scenario around exaggerating it for comedic effect. Finally, let's talk about the Sarah Koenig Serial podcast bit. Peter is talking about getting into podcasts, and he mentions Serial. Then we get the iconic "this was cornflakes, or was it?" intro, followed by the loud chewing. This is a brilliant piece of meta-humor. Family Guy is poking fun at the popularity of true crime podcasts, specifically Serial, and its distinctive narrative style. The inclusion of Sarah Koenig's voice and the dramatic pauses, contrasted with the incredibly mundane sound of someone chewing cereal, creates a surreal and hilarious effect. It's a commentary on how these podcasts, while often engaging, can also be incredibly drawn out and sometimes focus on minutia. The fact that Peter is listening to this while presumably the house is falling down around him or he's about to do something terrible adds another layer of absurdity. It's the juxtaposition of the serious, investigative tone of the podcast with the utter chaos of the Griffin household. What this moment is doing is acknowledging and satirizing a significant cultural phenomenon. It shows the writers are paying attention to what's happening in the world and can find humor in it. It's a smart, layered joke that requires the audience to be aware of the podcast's existence to fully appreciate it. If I were to add to this, I'd have the chewing sound abruptly stop, and then Sarah Koenig's voice would say, "And the culprit was Peter Griffin, who ate all the cereal." That would have been a perfect self-referential punchline.
But even as it is, the Serial podcast reference is a fantastic example of Family Guy's ability to blend pop culture with its own brand of surreal humor. It's a quick, sharp joke that lands perfectly, showing the show's continued relevance and its knack for dissecting modern culture. It's a moment that makes you laugh because it's so unexpected and so accurate. Now, let's dive into the characters. Peter, as usual, is the engine of chaos. In this episode, his brief foray into health and fitness is immediately sabotaged by his own inherent Peterness. He's not someone who sticks with anything that requires actual effort. The pitching machine is his weapon of choice for both misguided father-son bonding and, let's be honest, probably for his own amusement. His inability to grasp basic physics or safety protocols is on full display, leading to the near demise of Chris and the literal destruction of his house. He's at his core a child in an adult body, and this episode fully leans into that. His motivation is always selfish, whether it's for a laugh on TV or just to alleviate boredom. Nothing about his character arc in this episode is particularly groundbreaking, but it's consistently Peter, which is what fans expect. He's the catalyst for most of the episode's absurdity, and that's his job. It's a consistent performance, if not an inspiring one. Lois, bless her heart, is the perpetual voice of reason, constantly drowned out by the madness.
She's trying to be supportive of Peter's health kick, but it's a losing battle from the start. Her real moment comes with the discovery of her father's affair with Meredith. This is a pivotal moment for her character in this episode, as it forces her to confront a hidden, painful truth about her family. It reframes her perception of her childhood and her parents. It's a chance for her to show genuine emotional depth, and the show gives her that opportunity here. It's a nice change of pace from her usual exasperated reactions to Peter's antics. She's not just the nagging wife, she's a woman dealing with a significant personal revelation, and that's compelling. Chris. Poor, sweet, dim-witted Chris. He's the perennial victim of Peter's schemes. In this episode, he's the target of the pitching machine, nearly suffering a career-ending injury for the sake of a few laughs on America's Funniest Home Videos. His role is largely reactive. He's the punchline to Peter's jokes. He does get a moment as the affable but dim bellhop in the hotel scheme, which is perfectly cast. His willingness to go along with whatever his dad says, even when it's clearly dangerous, is part of his charm and his tragedy. He's the most innocent of the Griffin children, and he pays the price for his father's recklessness. There's not a lot of growth for him here, just more of the same. Stewie, as always, is the mastermind, the pragmatist, and the source of some of the episode's most inventive humor. His explanation of the 12-second echo is a perfect example of his intellectual prowess, but it's his use of the echo and the resulting flatulence joke that solidifies his comedic genius. He's the one who brings a certain level of sophistication to the show's chaos. In the hotel setup, he's the meticulous organizer, assigning roles, which is a nice contrast to Peter's haphazard approach. He's also the one who's trying to set up Dr. Hartman and the librarian, showing his penchant for meddling and matchmaking, albeit with a very specific, logical goal. He's consistently one of the most entertaining characters because he's so sharp and so unpredictable. His development in this episode isn't about changing who he is, but about showcasing his established traits in new scenarios. Brian, the aspiring intellectual and wannabe sophisticate, gets his moment as the bartender at the makeshift hotel bar. His tagline, "Drinks, Thinks, and Winks," is a perfect encapsulation of his self-perception. He sees himself as the smooth operator with all the answers, dispensing witty advice. However, as we know, his advice is often pretentious, self-serving, or just plain wrong. He plays the role of the smooth talker, trying to arrange romance for guests, which is exactly the kind of meddling he enjoys. His interactions in this episode further solidify his character as someone who thinks they know it all, but often gets it spectacularly wrong. He's not a dynamic character in this episode. He's more of a fixture, fulfilling his typical role. Meg is, as always, the forgotten child, the scapegoat. She's assigned the most thankless, chemical-filled tasks in the hotel operation. Her existence in this episode is to be put upon and generally ignored. There's no real arc for her. She's just there to suffer the indignities of being a Griffin. She's the punchline that never gets a laugh from the family. While the episode doesn't give her much to do, her role as the overworked, underappreciated member of the household is consistently reinforced.
It's a testament to the show's established character dynamics that Meg's suffering is almost a given. Carter Pewterschmidt's storyline is the most substantial character-wise. His confession about the affair with Meredith is a massive reveal that changes Lois's understanding of her past. He's portrayed as a wealthy, somewhat detached father, but this secret adds a layer of complexity to him. His justification for the affair, blaming the horn part of Susudio, is classic Carter, deflecting blame and making excuses. He's a character who operates on a different level of privilege and detachment, and this reveal makes him a bit more human, albeit a flawed one. His actions have had significant consequences, and this episode finally brings them to light. The hidden gem in this episode has to be the quick callback to Meredith's affair with a rich guy in Rhode Island. This isn't just a random detail. It's a sly nod to the show's own history and its tendency to revisit characters and plot points. Rhode Island, of course, is where the show is set, and the idea of a rich, powerful man having an affair with someone he employed is a theme that echoes throughout Family Guy. It's a small detail, but it adds a layer of depth for longtime viewers, reminding us of the show's interconnected narrative threads. It's a subtle piece of fan service that rewards those who have been watching for years. Another hidden gem is the subtle jab at the production of the show itself, particularly during the hotel setup. When Peter is assigning roles, he says, "Chris, you'll be the affable but dim bellhop."
When you say, "help those people with their bags," I'll ask, "how high?" This is a meta joke about how characters are sometimes given simplistic roles or dialogue to serve the plot. It's the writers winking at the audience, acknowledging the constructed nature of their own creation. It's the kind of joke that most people would miss because they're focused on the immediate story, but it's a clever moment of self-awareness from the writing team. Then there's the brief mention of adult Disney woman as one of Carter's guests. This is a reference to a specific type of character often found in Disney films, usually a well-meaning but slightly out-of-touch woman. The fact that she's at a hotel for a bender with a backstory involving a fancy boy at theater camp adds a layer of surreal humor. It's a quick character sketch that's both funny and vaguely unsettling, fitting perfectly into the chaotic mix of guests at the Peterschmidt mansion. It's a tiny detail that adds to the overall absurdity of the scene. The podcast reference to Serial is also a bit of a hidden gem, not because the podcast itself is obscure, but because the way Family Guy incorporates it is so specific and unexpected. The loud chewing over the radio, the dramatic pauses, it's all a perfect parody of the true crime podcast format. It's a joke that relies on the audience being familiar with the podcast's style, and it's a testament to the show's ability to satirize contemporary culture with sharp precision. It's a brief moment, easily missed if you're not paying attention to the background audio. Finally, the whole sequence with the towels being assigned roles as if they're soldiers going into battle is a brilliant piece of visual gag writing. The camera focuses on the towels, and Peter's menacing voice narrates their impending doom in the hotel. It's a moment that's so over the top, so ridiculous, that it's easily overlooked as just another Peter gag. But the sheer commitment to the bit, the anthropomorphization of inanimate objects in such a dark and violent context, is a signature move of the show that's often missed in the rush of other jokes. It's a testament to their ability to find humor in the mundane by injecting it with extreme, unexpected themes. Okay, what if they did it differently? Let's consider the hotel plotline. Instead of just assigning roles, what if the family actually had to earn their keep? Imagine Peter, Chris, and Meg actually trying to run the hotel, and their incompetence leading to genuine customer complaints and chaos, rather than just Peter being Peter.
Like, what if Chris, as the bellhop, actually tries to carry luggage and ends up breaking it, leading to a massive insurance claim Peter has to deal with? Or Meg, in the laundry, accidentally uses bleach on a guest's prize-winning poodle's fur, turning it bright pink. This would have made the hotel plot more of a cohesive story about the family struggling and failing together, rather than just individual characters being themselves. It would have given them a shared struggle, which, ironically, might have actually led to some genuine bonding, even if it was through shared misery. And then there's Carter's affair. While the reveal is impactful, the justification feels a bit weak. Blaming the horn part of Susudio is funny, but what if the real reason was more complex? What if Meredith was genuinely the only person who understood Carter, or who he felt he could be himself with before his wife found out? This would have made the affair less about a simple indiscretion and more about a deeper, albeit inappropriate, emotional connection.
It would have added a layer of pathos to Carter's character, showing him as a flawed human being with complex motivations, rather than just a wealthy old man who screwed up. It would have made Lois's discovery even more devastating, as it would reveal a hidden, tragic side to her father she never knew. Let's talk about the verdict. I'm giving this episode a solid 7.2 out of 10. The point 2 comes from the sheer audacity of the pitching machine hitting Chris in the crotch and the Serial podcast parody. Those were genuinely laugh-out-loud moments that felt fresh and sharp. The 7 is for the attempt at a more substantial storyline with Carter's affair and Lois's reaction. It's an episode that tries to balance the show's signature absurd humor with actual emotional stakes, and it mostly succeeds, even if it stumbles. The hotel plot, while chaotic, felt a little bit like filler, a way to keep the family busy while the real story unfolded. The episode is really for the longtime fans who appreciate the show's evolution and its ability to still surprise them with clever meta-humor and surprisingly poignant character moments. It's not a perfect episode, but it's a good example of Season 20 Family Guy trying to find its groove, weaving together absurdity with glimpses of genuine storytelling. What would have pushed this score higher? A more cohesive integration of the hotel plotline with the main drama, and perhaps a slightly less dismissive justification for Carter's affair, allowing for more nuanced exploration of his character.
Ultimately, this episode reminds us that even in its later seasons, Family Guy can still deliver moments of brilliance, even if they're surrounded by the usual brand of controlled mayhem, just like that opening musical number, which, despite its old-fashioned message, somehow still leads into the wild, unpredictable ride that is the Griffin family. It's a testament to the show's enduring, if occasionally baffling, appeal.